What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Passionate DJ Podcast. I'm your host, David Michael, and I have a special guest co-host with me today, the one and only Mr. Greg Lane, also known as G Money. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Just looking forward to doing this with you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you coming on and filling in as guest co-host today. I wanted to talk to you about a few different things. We're going to be talking about the ways to make our DJing unique and some different steps to doing that. But I first wanted to kind of introduce you to the audience because you have a long history with Passionate DJ now. You're one of our Passionate DJ ambassadors, so you're a group of just a few different people who kind of work a little bit behind the scenes, talk to us in our Slack channel, give us direct feedback, and we kind of work back and forth to try to spread the word. And so I wanted to just kind of introduce you to the audience. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're into as a DJ.
So I guess I like a long story short, I really kind of got into DJing starting in 1998. I used to be a hip hop dancer when I was in the Marine Corps. And I got turned on to a little DJ crew out there and started learning to DJ with them and moved back to Mississippi of all places and kind of got involved from that point. And just over the years, it's just something I really love to do and been able to I've never been able to wanted to give it up. And I've had some like lean years and stuff like that. But
yeah. That seems pretty common.
Especially after, what's that?
I was just saying that seems pretty common. A lot of people will take the lean years is a good way to put it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it came like Hurricane Katrina down here where we live. Went through that, and I lost quite a bit of stuff. And it took a little while to get back into things. And then once I did, and actually after I've kind of come through those years and stuff like that, everything kind of got reignited back. As far as music wise, and then for a while I got bit. The two things that I do now with the two podcasts, I got bit by the acid bug, so to speak. Now I'm doing two podcasts, the Sound Underground podcast and This Is Acid podcast, and that's kind of like a real condensed version of how I've been through. There's a lot of it's a long. It could be a lot longer story, but just in a more condensed version.
Yeah, so the Sound Underground, I'm actually wearing the shirt today. You were nice enough to send me one of these. Great shirt, actually. I really enjoy wearing this. But I was given the honor of putting a mix together for your show for the 1-year anniversary earlier this year. Which I had a lot of fun doing. So that's kind of the concept, right, of the Sound Underground is like a rotation of guest DJs, or what was your kind of approach with that?
Well, with the Sound Underground podcast, the way, I've always loved the Essential Mix. Mm-hmm. And I used to listen to it religiously all the time. And just the way I kind of wanted to approach it was, I was like, I tell anybody that I get to play, if they agree, I'm like, I want you to be you. I want you to play what you want to play, not what you think everybody else wants to play to hear. And just give me what you got. I just want at least an hour and a playlist, and that's it. And you do whatever you want from that point, and I'll put it out there because I want people to hear all kinds of different stuff. I don't care what it is or where it comes from or anything like that. To me, it's just about music, and that's the basis of the Sound Underground podcast itself. And actually, that's kind of the idea of what I look at the Sound Underground. It is just anything and everything.
So with the Sound Underground, so no real stylistic limitations. Does it kind of center around any particular sounds, or has it been widely varied, or what have you seen since you've kind of given DJs free reign with that?
Well, one of my production partner did like kind of more breaks, down tempo type mix. I have drum and bass. There's been quite a bit of like tech house, progressive house type stuff. I've covered trance. I don't really, I don't, even if I'll ask people to do it just to maybe turn myself onto something that I haven't heard. So I can try to get a better understanding of some of the things, because no matter how I might feel about something or going into it, I'm always going to give it a chance, and I'm going to listen to it from there, whether I have like these preconceived notions of the music itself. I listen to the mix that everybody sends me, and I appreciate for what it is. And
I
I've enjoyed every single one I've gotten.
I think it's sometimes it can be better to sort of be pleasantly surprised like that rather than kind of having preconceived notions. It's like, oh wow, this wasn't what I expected at all, but this is cool.
Yeah.
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 So the other show, This Is Acid.
Yeah.
It's all in the name, right? All about acid. So is that's all you DJing, right? Or do you have guests on that show as well?
I've had a few guests. DJ Wank, he's from Sweden. I've had Panic, who's actually from Alabama. I've had my buddy Charles Logan do one. I did a combination mix with my production partner 326. His name's Danny. But most of them have all been me. I'm trying to get some other people involved,
Okay.
and some other names, because it's really a niche group. But overall, if you do a comparison on the two podcasts, it does better, because it just seems like maybe the niche group is always hunting out that music always.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome. You know that. So is it anything that's 303 based, or is it kind of like acid house, acid techno, or do you center around a particular genre, I guess?
Well, yeah, I have a buddy in Austin. He says, "Are you going to do only 303 sounds, or are you going to be this for the purists?" I said, "Look, if it sounds like acid, it's acid. I don't care."
I like that answer.
Yeah, I said, I don't care what some purists might think or something like that. It's just, it's the same thing as the real DJ thing.
Yeah. Why get lost in the minutia?
But yeah, get over it. Sounds good. That's what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. If it sounds good, it is good. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
So real quick, we mentioned the ambassador program, and this is something we've kind of gone back and forth on as far as like what is the ambassador program, and do we, so far it's been very like tight knit. There's probably more than 5, less than 10 active people in the group, and it's kind of an invite only thing still. And so I wonder if I could ask you, and I'm kind of throwing you under the bus with this. I didn't tell you I was going to ask this, but what made you want to participate and kind of be more involved with Passionate DJ in sort of a behind the scenes way?
So, well, you're not really throwing me under the bus. Actually give me an opportunity to answer a question that, that I think I mentioned before. Like, if you remember when you first did that, like the real DJ thing was the 10 things I think about vinyl or something. It was when you got bombarded. When it was an article you did.
Why you should still know how to beat match by ear.
Yeah, and I emailed you directly on that, and just told you you responded, said, "Man, I'm getting killed today with the website and all that stuff." Trying to get it figured out. But we kind of trade back a few emails back and forth, and I started following the blog, and it was just, to me, it was great to see, somebody, putting an effort in the time of something that you love to do, and building it from the ground up, and that kind of inspired me a bit, and I kind of got lost a little bit not listening to the podcast so much as I did read, because to me, it used to be like podcasts I couldn't really listen to. It really, I prefer to listen to music, but then I started listening to the podcast, and I've gotten to the point where I listen to like podcasts more than I listen to music now.
Yeah.
And as you got to the 100 show, I just listened more and more, and I just felt like it was something I wanted to be a part of it and everything like that, because I enjoyed seeing it, because basically kind of seeing you from the beginning when it comes out, even though you had started a little bit before that. So it's fun. It almost feels like, I've started my journey a few years back, trying to do the website and trying to do the podcast and wanting to get into production stuff. And then also see you guys work from the ground up too. And it's nice to see, and also be able to work with people in that way too.
Well, and we definitely appreciate what you guys do. We've been kind of wishy-washy on exactly what the ambassador tasks are, and Mo and I have gone back and forth on it. Like, what do we want to? What's too much to ask from these guys who are volunteering their time and all that kind of stuff? So you guys have really stuck around and been troopers, and you've, I think, one thing that I've said before is you guys were Passionate DJ ambassadors before we gave you the label. That's why we reached out to you. You guys were already participating and kind of sharing the word. And so on behalf of the rest of the team, I just wanted to thank you personally for being part of it. We really, really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate being able to do it. Like I said, I enjoy it. So it's a pleasure's all mine, so to speak.
Awesome, awesome. So you're from Ocean Spring. You're living in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm from Ocean Springs,
You're from
born and
Ocean
raised.
Springs. Okay, so and that's what close to Biloxi, correct?
Yeah.
And so, what's it like down there, music-wise? Is there a scene to speak of as far as this kind of dance music thing, or what? I have no
Well,
idea what to expect. I haven't been to Mississippi since I could barely walk.
well, I tell you what, pre-Katrina years, there was actually a really good little small scene around here, but we live next to New Orleans,
Mm,
a little over an hour from New Orleans, and so as you like one of the podcasts I got really excited about was when you had Donnie on there because like
yeah,
like before he was a legend in everybody else's mind, he was already a legend here.
yeah, yeah. Disco Donnie.
And just going to the shows, the Zulu, going to so basically we were kind of an extension of the scene of New Orleans. Like we would play over there, they'd come over to play. We had this little place over here called Orangutans. Every week we did a thing. So,
Okay.
but since Katrina, like it's really not. It's really there's a lot of casinos around here now, and they kind of suck in a lot of the nightlife.
I see.
And they play terrible music. So there's just really not a whole lot goes on. That's so the way I kind of look at it. Another way I look at the podcast is like if I can't go see good music, then I'm gonna do it at home.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was actually going to bring that up because sometimes we get messages from people like I want to be a DJ, but I don't have any gigs, or I don't know where to play, or I don't have anywhere that my music fits, or something like that. And like 2018, 2019, it's like there's a lot of options to kind of do this whole DJing thing in your own way, right? And I think
Yeah.
that you've found or are finding the way that you want to express yourself as a DJ by starting these shows. I'm kind of doing the same thing through Passionate DJ, finding a way to use that to express myself through a medium, which is what DJs do. And I think that's great that you've stayed in it and found a way to keep doing what you do, even if the scene isn't striking your fancy right now.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's funny too because I tell my wife, I said I used to sit in my little truck before like I'd go out like when I was still single or whatever, and I said it's pretty bad when I'd rather sit in my truck and listen to the music than go in and listen to what they're playing in there.
Yeah. So was it a stylistic thing? Like you couldn't find the actual music you liked, or is it just a lack of shows?
It just lack of shows and just the
It's one leads
casino
to the other, huh?
night big nightclub just top 40 and yeah it's you say yeah I hear y'all talk about dating and being small and stuff like that like I mean like it's terrible.
Yeah, well, I like talking to people from other like not huge cities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like kind of medium level cities, because I feel like there's a lot of perspective that can be shared there. We like talking to we have the other ambassadors are kind of from similar cities. We've got Noel's from Phoenix, for example. Like that's a bigger city, but it's like that's a totally different place than here in the Midwest. And so I always like to ask and try to get a feel for what it's like. This is a big country.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, there's some efforts around here for me, like for me and a few other guys to try to get some stuff, but they're just the support and it's like the younger generation. We haven't been able to find them. Like there's a core group of us that are older, about my age.
Mm-hmm.
But we just can't seem to find where the younger kids are to bring them up, even though we know they're there. It's just like we can't find them. But then also there's just a lack of commitment from venues around here. They will, if you don't
Gotcha.
have something immediately, then it's not going to work out. And that's pretty, it's pretty disheartening. It actually, something just happened recently with a couple. We did a monthly event around here called My House is Your House. A friend of mine puts it on. I would play regularly for them. 2 venues, 2 months in a row, just oh, we don't play techno here, or the other was like, oh, I'm not happy. One night, I mean, just one night, and it's got to the point where we're talking about we want to go do illegal raves.
They're more fun anyway.
Yeah, they are.
So before we get on to the main topic, where can our listeners listen to these shows? Should they just subscribe, like Apple Podcasts and so on?
Well, you can get to any of the places it's at in iTunes or SoundCloud, or listen to it on the website, thesoundunderground.net, and it's spelled the same way. Sound. There's
no funny business.
No hyphens, no dashes, nothing. This thesoundunderground.net. But then from there, you can get the SoundCloud. You can subscribe in Google Music. You can subscribe in iTunes. You can also listen and download from the site. You can get all the playlists. That's one thing I do with every set that we do. We always publish a playlist and try to get some information on any of the guest DJs that are playing and stuff like that, maybe where they can find other music by them and stuff. So I have other big plans for the site, but time is always and time is valuable, and I have a family, two little girls now too, so it's kind of
I hear
hard.
that, brother. So thesoundunderground.net, and if the listener needs somewhere to start, you could check out my mix, scroll down a few mixes, you'll find mine. Also, our friend Kilma recently did, I think that's the current one, yeah?
Yeah, we got coming out next week, but hers most recent. And I'll tell you what, I had, to kind of, throw myself under the bus a little bit. I hadn't really heard a whole lot that she'd done, just a few things here and there online. But I'll tell you what, that mix that she did, I was really impressed with. I really liked it.
Oh, it was fire. I was driving around running errands that day, so I brought it up on my phone and I was rocking out all day. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, she's fun. thesoundunderground.net. And I am going to get on to our main topic, but I do want to real quick remind our listening audience to support us on Patreon if you want to gain access to our monthly bonus episodes. We have a monthly show called After Party, and it's kind of deleted scenes and side conversations and other things that didn't make it into the main show. If you'd like to gain access to all that bonus content, just head over to patreon.com/passionatedj. Sign up and support us at any level you want. We also have merch for sale at passionatedj.com/merch. And today's topic actually comes from another place you might want to check out, which is our Facebook community group. We've been plugging this pretty hard lately. It's been working. The group's been growing. It's been awesome. You can hit that up by going to passionatedj.com/community. And that brings us to today. And we've been doing this like question of the week sort of thing. And so one of the questions that I posted recently was, what's unique about your own DJing style? And we got all kinds of responses in there. And so what I've done is kind of pulled those responses and found some sort of recurring or common traits and pulled those traits out of these responses. And we turned this into 10 traits of unique DJs. And so Greg and I are just going to go through these now and discuss. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Do you happen to have the notes pulled up or in front of you?
Yeah, I've got them right here.
Okay, great. So the first trait that we're going to talk about is adaptability. So when I posted this, we just mentioned Kilma. She said that it's probably my ability to adapt. While I don't play top 40 music and I tend to stay within the realms of house and techno, I can typically make my DJ sets work for various crowds. And now this is definitely more relevant to the live audience thing, kind of going back to that. But yeah, that ability to adapt and like pivot, you know what I mean, in the moment. So if, for example, something's not working, knowing how to get out of that and do that kind of testing, A/B testing, crowd reading thing to see what's working and what's not. She mentions, what I like about it is that I've been able to stay within what I truly enjoy playing and performing, that's kind of the balance, I think, is like you want to be adaptable, but you want to keep doing what you want to do. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, which it sounds like you had some of that struggle in your local DJ community or music scene, finding that I want to play what I want to play, or I want to hear something different than is being provided.
Yeah, and when you posted this question, I started trying to think of a lot of things with me, but kind of to that point, like I think one of the ways to adapt, like you need to know just like you always talk about, you need to know the crowd that you're going into and be able to pivot and change at any point in time. But then one of the things that in the way that I am You can call it snobbery or whatever, but I'm not going to let myself get booked for a show where I have to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when I'm playing, I'm coming to play what I want to play. Unless, it was something that, there's sometimes we get something where you say, okay, I know this is going to go in. So you got your folder over here of your favorites and stuff like that. Kind of like I posted a long string of tracks the other day in the question you asked. Like, these are a lot of things that you could just have in a folder that everybody would enjoy.
Yeah.
Just about as much as they want to admit it. And that's adapting and adapting to overcome, so to speak. Go back to my Marine Corps days. So.
Yeah, it's a common struggle. I hear this a lot. Like it's the adaptability versus like, okay, how much do I adapt before I'm like selling out, or however you want to phrase it, Yeah. And it really does come down to like, well, what are you doing this for? Like, is this your job? Are you making your income off of this? Like, how much are you willing to flex on this? Because for me, this is something I do because I enjoy it. I like expressing myself through the music artistically, and it's kind of like I don't know, I call it a personal therapy thing. Like, especially when I'm by myself, I'm just kind of in the mix. I get lost in it and stuff. And so I a lot of the mixing action that I do is as much for me as anyone else. So in order for that to work, you have to kind of align and like choose the gigs that are appropriate to where you can play what you want to play and other people are going to dig it, because otherwise I'm just kind of forcing my sound down the throats of everybody else who doesn't want to hear it.
Well, to me, playing is like a cathartic situation where, like, if I was to go somewhere and like you said, get to a point where I'm not happy with what I'm playing, then it doesn't become a cathartic situation where I'm not, cleansing myself, so to speak, and then I would feel dirty, and like this whole situation in itself, like, just is not making me happy now. So
you start wondering what the point is after a while.
Yeah.
You want to read our next response?
Yeah. So it's Adventurousness. You want me to read the whole thing, or just what you got highlighted?
Read what you got highlighted, and we can go from there.
So it says, I can't, Deepy.
The name's Deepy.
Yeah. I've got some positive feedback from a few very credible DJs in the city by mixing in slower tempo BPM, 70 to 110 BPMs, psychedelic music to my psytrance 138 to 144 BPM. It allows you to play with energy levels by bringing them up and down.
Allows you to play with energy levels by bringing them up and down. So adventurousness. I tend to think of this as like, as DJs, especially like if you want to use the word snobby or whatever, like the more ingrained in that we get, I think the less adventurous we can get. You know what I mean? As far as like, I know what my sound is, I know what sounds I like, and this is just what I play, And I think that adventurous nature, like our response from our friend here in the community group, taking music that is stylistically similar but like drastically different BPM and energy levels, and being able to kind of move between those to try to push and pull not only the crowd but kind of yourself, and like test your own little limitations and see where you can take something rather than kind of going with a cookie cutter tried and true. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when I read this, when you sent this to me last night, I looked at the list, read it. I kind of actually thought about the Crystal Grid podcast you did the other day, where they talked about going from, I think, where they started around, was it 90 or something like that, and ended around 50, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess they do double time, so you would double it or something like that. And that's kind of like what this idea is the whole kind of roller coaster type idea of with BPMs. One thing that I've always kind of done is I always try to find a BPM that I want to start at and try to increase it throughout the set up to, like, I don't have a target one, but it could end up wherever it ends up, and it all just depends on how everything's going from that point.
I do that too, but I feel like I only increase by like 2 or 3 BPM, which really doesn't seem adventurous when I think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's like a habit that I get into,
Yeah. I've had some, like I actually did a DJ series back in 2013. I did every week, you know, when we had our first little girl, and I'd put her bed at like 8 o'clock, and then I'd go in there and play music for like 2 hours. I had some mixes where I started like 70 or 80, and I ended at about 120.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
And you just like gradually work your way there?
Yeah. And one of the best ways to use that though is using breakdowns or melodic just interlude types.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily smash it together. You just kind of piece it together with these ambient sounds and stuff like that.
That's what I was going to ask, because you can get away with like jumping up a couple BPM without anybody noticing, especially with like a little key lock or something, you know, so they don't hear you bumping it up. But yeah, you have like a breakdown or something like that, and then you can kind of bump it up, and then by the time the beat comes in, it's just faster, but they don't necessarily notice.
Yeah. And you can do that. I've had occasions where you could hear that little. So, but I tell you a good example of that also is like I've actually taken it upon myself here recently to start listening to every one of the Global Underground CDs from 1 all the way through to whether I'm 41, and I think I'm on 14. I'll put it on my laptop and put it to my speakers as I'm working during the day because I work from home. I'll turn it up, and like to this day still, the Global Underground with Paul Oakenfold, as much as you know, his mixing, you know, these days still lacks something, but that CD to me, like CD 2, he starts out with the drum and bass and stuff like that, and he transitions. It's just, to me, it's like one of the, like, it's a timeless type CD, and he uses that type of thing. He starts out drum and bass, he's doing the first few tracks, and then he's back into the trance type stuff, and he used the melodic interludes and ambient perfect to be able to do that transition. Like it was you know, just put together so well.
Is that 14 Oakenfold?
No, that's 7.
That's
it's either
7.
2 or 7 because it was in New York, but they're both the same CD. But in also the one in Oslo, I'd never really heard the full thing till recently, and he did the same type thing. He played a lot more drum and bass, and it was just really good.
So, what are you on now, John Digweed?
I just got done with Digweed.
Just got done. Okay.
On James Lavelle, I think
I knew it was right around there.
Yeah, Prague, I believe it is. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That used to be the series, The Collect.
Okay, once again, the question is, what's unique about your own style of DJing? Rob says, my ability to perform mashups on the fly, my eclecticism, but mostly how I dig deep into underground cuts, or cuts that fell off the radar. So we're talking about being eclectic, which obviously helps, right? I mean, the more, I guess, breadth of musical knowledge we have, the more kind of tools we have to reach into, to either jump around in style or to just present a new sound to a new audience or something like that. What do you think about this eclecticism thing? Because once again, this is kind of the balance between this is my sound and this is what I do, but also I want to show that I have variety, you know?
Yeah, the eclectic thing, like, so one of the first things that pops in my mind is we used to go to State Palace, and like one of the big acts always used to come through was Rabbit in the Moon, but like Monk, who was part of the Rabbit in the Moon, was one of the DJs. He always played these sets at Zulu and stuff like that, and he's a really great DJ. I actually brought him to play here locally, and he would play like this real hard, like dirty techno, like booty house and stuff like that. But then he always had this one track that like he dropped, and I can't remember the name of the original song, but it was a southern rock band mixed with some drum and bass. And to me, that's the eclectic piece, is like you dropping something in that's so unexpected that it just drives everybody nuts, you know. And then like
taking that risk,
showing your personality when it comes to certain things like that, and be able to just drop in this random track. Like I kind of collect these little songs and stuff like that to wonder if I could ever put this, like, I love Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers, Islands in the Stream. Like, I ride around sometimes listening. I'm like, I wonder if this would work somewhere one day. You know, that's when I think of eclecticism.
It's hard to say, I know.
Yeah. That's what I kind of think of, and being able to do that is you know, like it, but you got to know when to do it. You can't just do it.
Right, because at a certain point you just sound completely random and disjointed, right? If you're going all over the place.
Yeah.
It's got to be like, this is the moment. Right here is the one where I'm going to catch them off guard.
Yeah.
So 10.
You want to know eclectic? Speaking of Donnie, one year, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was a Freak Fest. I wasn't there, but there's stories of it. In the State Palace Theater, like, you got to imagine it's 1920s opera house. Like, just it's got balconies, it's got chandeliers and this big tall you know, stage. It's all dark. You got 5,000 ravers in there. They throw all the lights on, and they have a choir with a marching band.
Whoa!
Come through everywhere, and like from what I understand, the people just was freaking out.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of those stories like that type of stuff,
especially if it's unexpected like that.
What's that?
Especially if it's unexpected.
Yeah, and that's kind of the eclectic type thing. It's just all, you know, and that's like just in a show type thing, but like it was all in the midst of a DJ set and how it was all built in and stuff like that too. So, you know, that's kind of an extreme example.
Well, there have been a number of those extreme examples. You know, we've seen DJs perform with, you know, full orchestras and all kinds of stuff. You know, so 10 traits of unique DJs. The next one talks about being entertaining. Larry says the ability to entertain rather than be a glorified song changer. And he talks about the mashing up of his radio delivery style on the mic. He had 45 years in radio. So, yeah, that's not something that I've really done a whole lot of. I don't know if you've had experience with doing the kind of mic control thing as a live DJ.
I'm scared of the mic.
Are you? Yeah, for me,
I think most DJs are.
Yeah, I think it depends, right? Because if you're the type of DJ, like mobile DJs, a lot of them, that's just kind of part of the gig, right? Like, so wedding DJs, hey, it's time for the father-daughter dance, da-da-da-da. Or if you do like trivia, karaoke, anything like that, you know, that kind of stuff obviously comes with mic work. The stuff that I've done almost stylistically doesn't include mic work. Like, it would annoy my crowds if I if I got on the mic, you know. But I think for a certain segment of a big segment of our DJ audience, you know, this is really important, having that kind of like vocal personality and be able to interact. You know, doing crowd work is a lot harder than it looks when somebody's doing it right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's stressful and easy to say the wrong thing.
this kind of like this, you know, we'll probably talk about this in a later question also, but I would just kind of bring it up now. Like, you had DJs like Ron Carroll. Like, this is one of the ones I thought about last night, and he sang and wrote the song The Sermon, and he would do his sets. He would come down here also, like, he was big in coming to New Orleans for a while, like he was on a regular rotation through, and people loved watching him because he would sing with his DJ sets. He would sing live, and that can be a lot of fun. So that's a form of entertaining as far as that goes. It's adding the whole thing, and it's you know, there's a few other female DJs that I've seen that have done that, and it adds a whole different element if you're able to do something like that in that way. To me, that if I could sing, maybe I would do something like that, but that to me would be an added entertainment aspect to it also.
Colette is a great example of that in the deep house world. Had the opportunity of seeing her here locally twice, and both times it was, you know, she has a perfect balance. She's, you know, songwriter and producer anyway, so, you know, that kind of works into the whole deal. But you know, she had like a headset microphone and she was doing her DJ thing, and then when the part would come up, she would start singing, and she kept on mixing, and she's just adorable, you know, just real short and up there and beaming, smiling the whole time, having a great time, and you know, that's its own, you know, kind of entertainment as well. Crystal Grid is another example, you know, who we have brought on the show recently. Sax work and the drums and all the mic work in between and all that kind of stuff, and the energy that you show, you know, when you're on stage and not just standing behind the decks, but actually moving around and playing instruments, you know, making eye contact and that kind of thing. Like they have me, Crystal Grid has me come to some of their practices and stuff and give feedback. And that was one of the things that I mentioned is like, hey, I know this is awkward with just me sitting in the room, but when there's a crowd, do you make eye contact with people and stuff? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, I understand you didn't want to serenade me privately here, but
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to be mindful of all that stuff when you're just trying to make sure the music's good, you know?
Yeah.
Do you want to take us on to our next trait?
Yeah. So this is about patience. It's from Christopher. He says, I enjoy long, subtle transitions where you end up with something special and in sync in the middle.
Yeah, so patience. Now, this is one that I preached over and over on this show. Maybe I'm too patient. Maybe some DJs like to be a little more hyperactive than I am. I realize that's a stylistic choice, but I think the point was kind of like a lot of today's DJs and, you know, shows like festival-y type shows are really like fast transition, you know, quick cuts and that kind of stuff. Whereas like, you know, locking in a mix for like 2 or 3 minutes that actually works. You know, that kind of, I hesitate to use the word mashup because that kind of brings that quick mixing style into my head when I say mashup.
Well, it's layering. So
layering,
I
yeah.
Really expound on this idea.
By all means.
So I think we share a similar, probably love for John Digweed.
Mm-hmm.
But you had, I can't remember his name now, the guy he had on a while back about, y'all did a podcast and he talked a lot about John Digweed and just like the different stuff and stuff like that. And to me, he is the best mixer that, as far as like bringing tracks together and making something totally different than what you like. You cannot go listen to a track that he puts on a mix by itself and hear the same thing that's on the CD that you buy.
Yeah, I think you're
either that's because he's playing a different mix and not telling you, or he's that good. And right. That, to this day, that's my goal. And that I think the same thing the guy he said also is my goal whenever I play is that I want to create this whole different thing and have it put together. And to me, you know, my buddy gets on me all the time. He says, "Why you only play 12 or 13 tracks in an hour?" I'm like, "Do you know where they all end and begin?" Like, oh, okay, well then, you know what? It doesn't make a difference. I said, because the way I'm looping and the way I'm layering, I'm trying to make it all perfectly seamless. Like right. It's all one thing. And to me, that is patience in the mixing, because it's like, and that's why I won't take gigs that people aren't want you to be paid, because I don't want to play outside of that patience. I don't want to play differently than what I feel is what I am and how that goes, and yeah. That is the patience. And another good example is like Deep Dish. I love their Yoshi S CDs, and I also love their Global Undergrounds, because if you listen to the first track and then you say, "Let me go listen to the last track," you're like, "How did we get here? How did we get to this point?"
Yeah.
And you can't do it by listening to an individual track. You have to listen to them all, and that's where the patience. You need patience for yourself, but you also need patience from the listener.
Patience of the listener, exactly. Yeah, and it's really tough to get somebody to commit to listening to an hour or two in that way, you know, yeah. Especially somebody like you or me, like not John Digweed, you know, but like you need, in order to get the context, you have to understand how you got from here to here. You can't just skim through it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, a lot of people just don't have the time for that, you know, quote unquote. It's that kind of short attention span sort of thing, which is where the patience comes in. The rest of the comment here says, so many DJs I see love to transition quickly or slam faders. Not to say there's no place for that, but I just love the relationship that's possible in a deep mix. And I think that just connects with a different set of people when you have that, like, oh, I'm locked into this, I don't want to say loop because that's too specific, but I'm locked into this groove and it keeps on going and it leads me from this place to this place. And how did I end up here?
Yeah. And that's what I always say. I like I say to people, I'm like, you'll be someplace and you're just like, how did we get to this point? I'm like, one of the best experiences I ever had in my life is like, I used to love to take people to their first like show or something like that. And I took this guy, his name was Burton or something like that. It's been a long time. He never really been to a show, and I took him to see. I think it was either Delta Heavy or something. And he's like, "Oh, this is." By the end of the night, he had his shirt off. He was sweating. This was in the House of Blues. He was making out with some girl, and he's like, "Man, this is the greatest night of my life." And it was all created from, like if you've ever seen, like especially with like the Delta Heavy tour 2002. If you went to that, we saw it in the House of Blues. Like you're talking about, they had the phase-on system, and like just it hold like 300 or 400 people.
You're killing me.
You're right here on the stage, and I'm just telling you, it's like the first track that Digweed played, because he had it was just like the whole ground was shaking, and then just the whole night, it was unbelievable. And like I've seen these experiences of people that you bring, and it's just like you're understanding it, and that was a thing that was like probably one of the best feelings ever. And I kind of go on tangents here a little bit, but that all comes from that patience type thing. To be able to, if you're committing to this place and going here, be patient to get through it, because you're going to really enjoy yourself by the time we get to that end point at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's kind of like commit to this, right? Like, are you here for this experience or not? Unfortunately, my experience with the Sasha and Digweed Delta Heavy tour comes strictly from the documentary DVD, which Tony DeCero was kind enough to let me borrow and watch. I was graduating high school that year, and I barely even knew what this music was at the time. But man, going back, like stuff like that, and then hearing about Twilo in New York and all that stuff, it's like, man, if I could go back, if I just knew a few more things back then, if I'd been just a little bit older.
Yeah. I think we all say that when it comes to certain things, because believe me, you've still done plenty, I'm sure. So
it's always tough, because it's like there's always some act that's like, oh, if I was a few years older or something, but then there's other ones that I've like been pleasantly surprised that I've caught up with later. Like I totally accidentally saw George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic at Indianapolis Motor Speedway one year. I was there for a car thing, and I was like looking at the program like, George, what? So me and my uncle bailed and went over there, and it was awesome, So I was kind of caught off guard by it, but there's thinking about those old John Digweed and Sasha glory days, the turn of the millennium.
Yes. Before we move on to the next one, and we kind of doing that, this is what I like to tell people, because not many people have been able to experience it. So do you remember Jay-Z's Black album?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember the Gray album?
With Modest Mouse? Or
with Danger Mouse.
Danger Mouse, sorry.
Yeah, I saw him perform it live. Like
really?
One or two times he saw it perform. I saw him perform it live in Miami by a pool at during the Winter Music Conference.
Wow.
And there was like 50 people there, and we got to see him perform it live.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, Tony tells a similar story about Carl Cox in Miami, and he was playing for like nobody knew who he was at the time, and he was playing for like 20 people, around a table or something. So him and his buddy just stood there and watched him, like, oh my God, this is Carl Cox.
Yep. That's one of those moments. Yes, for sure.
The next trait that comes up is of unique DJs is musicianship, and we kind of touched on this already. Mariana says I incorporate freestyle singing into my sets. I use the breakdowns or instrumental portions of the music to share my own lyrics or mash up other songs. And then Jared chimes in. This is Jared from Crystal Grid. He says I mix a track and then play the drums to it. So yeah, incorporating live instrumentation, sampling, sequencing, anything that kind of brings more of a live music element can make your sets, for better or worse, can make your sets more unique.
Yeah.
Do you play an instrument, or I don't think I've ever asked you that before.
I wish, I've started learning theory and everything, but like I'm old. My fingers just don't have the dexterity that they should. But I'd love to learn to play the piano because, I have production equipment. I have stuff. I really wish I would have learned to play an instrument when I was younger. I really do.
Do you have a preferred DAW software? Preferred studio software?
Well, you use Ableton.
Ableton.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, everybody's trying to get me to switch to Ableton. I'm a long time FL Studio user since I was like 15. So yeah, back when it was called Fruity Loops 3.0 or whatever, it was barely more than a drum machine.
Yeah.
And it just, I kind of grew along with that. And so, but I've mentioned this on the show before. I keep thinking about it just because everybody I know uses Ableton in some form. So it would just make it easy to trade project files and stuff rather than like, can you export these stems and blah, blah, blah. Give me MIDI files. Ableton's just good at everything, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. It's my buddy that I work with as far as production wise goes. He's thinking about switching over to Logic, but like my buddy in Austin, Damon, he tries to use everything. He'll use Logic. He'll use Ableton. Because to him he's been doing it since he used to go to Club Yellow Space Lab Yellow in Tokyo in '91, and that's where he started learning how to DJ and learning how to play music back in the like early techno days in Japan. And he's had experience with all those, and he knows just about everything about any different type of DAW because he used them. And he's like, I like this piece in here. I like this piece in here. I like this piece in here.
Is that like an ADD thing, or is it like I want to be well-rounded and learn little bits of everything?
He's a perfectionist.
Okay.
So he wants the best of everything. Basically, was what to me.
I see.
He wants to be able to produce the best thing he can out of the tool that he's using.
So he's like, Ableton's really good at time stretching, but Pro Tools is really good at audio editing. So I'm going to take the best of all these. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's what he does exactly. But before we kind of go off a little bit, the musicianship. One of the things I wanted to bring up because, like you had talked, I've had Crystal Grid a lot lately, and that kind of incorporates that. But then another surprising thing that people might be like not really know too much about or like kind of dismiss, but DJ Arrow and Tommy Lee.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen them?
I have. It's actually Tony brought them to town like, I don't know, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. So it's been a very long time, but yeah, I did.
Yeah, the first time I saw them was at the Winter Music Conference also, and I also saw them here locally too, and I really enjoyed it.
It was a blast.
Yeah, it was really good, especially playing the drums. Like, I'm not a Motley Crue fan. I might get some hate on that.
Same.
But he's a drummer. He's a good drummer, and it was, to me, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun watching that, and that goes to that musicianship. He's a true musician and stuff like that, doing those things, and DJ Arrow's adding in his DJ skills and all that stuff, and it just, to me, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think that show might have been, there was a series of shows 10 or 12 years ago that Tony did here locally before three-dimensional entertainment existed, and this might have been one of the ones that he worked with Disco Donnie on. Because he was doing a lot of that back then. Okay, 10 traits of unique DJs. You want to bring us to our next one?
Yeah, open-mindedness. John says, not being tied down to one style of music or year.
Yeah, so kind of similar to the eclecticism, right? But so not being tied down to one style of music. So he goes on and says, a set of all new music bores me, so my typical set is old school classics mixed with harder trance and tech. techno, always building from start to crashing finish. So yeah, this is kind of once again like, am I being too random or am I being open-minded and eclectic, right?
Well, the one thing I'll say about this though is one of the things I thought about is like, there's so much music out right now, and there's so much, so you can get so much access to so much music. Like I can play stuff from 10 years ago, and I have, and like I had a little doing a birthday party with somebody, and I was playing a Green Velvet track, and the guy was like, "What is this song?" I'm like, "Man, this is like 90s."
Yeah.
So there's so much, and then there's also so much older stuff that people haven't heard that I kind of take that view now. Like I think a lot of DJs, and like I would do, it's like, oh, it used to be I have this record, I have these 10 new records, I can't let nobody see them because they might get it. But now it's like that doesn't really matter because you can like. It's kind of like obscurity through obfuscation.
Obfuscation.
So, yeah. So they're all out there. Everybody has access to them, but they don't always find them.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not a rarity problem anymore. Now it's purely discovery. Like, have you actually sought out this? You know, I'm pulling this out of some corner of left field that you wouldn't have looked, but there's some piece of this that's hooking you in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part of it. Like, so kind of taking it out of DJing, but just as an example, my wife is super into country, especially old country, but country music's kind of her thing, and it is totally not my thing.
Old country is good. If you go listen to Seven Spanish Angels and try not to cry.
Well, see, and that's the thing. So, and that's kind of what I came to realize is like I was just with a blanket response anytime it would come up and be like, turn this garbage off. I don't want to hear this twangy country bull crap. You know what I mean? And you live with somebody for 10 years, you start hearing the music back and forth, and we've both found middle ground of each other's music that we like, and it's like, wow, man, like I would have totally written off all this, especially old country, especially, but I discovered that like, hey, there's this like country kind of comes out of this blues sound, and I like that. So once I kind of put that together, that there's this bluesy country sound, even like more modern, like Chris Stapleton, I can totally get with. That's more bluesy to me.
There's a number of new ones that I've been trying to get into a little bit more. It's kind of hard. I really should. To me, modern country, a lot of the stuff that started getting into the mainstream, like you can have all that.
Yeah.
I have a stack over here. Like I try to buy old country records because I just like some of them, like Willie Nelson. But like the other morning, like one of the things I do with my little girl, one of my little girls, I take to school every morning. I say, okay, what do you want to listen to today? And she says, you pick, and I'll pick anything. Like she loves Johnny Cash. Like I love Johnny Cash. But then like I played Seven Spanish Angels for the other day. I said. I was sitting there, I want to cry. So like there's this thing about old country music that they try to replicate today with the same stuff over and over. But there's no, like whenever you listen to it, you're like you believe it. It's kind of like also listening to Eddie Vedder. Like to me, he was one of the greatest vocalists when it came to stuff because of the emotion that he put through his music. You could feel it, and you could feel that old country music. You can't feel that stuff today.
Yeah.
So we can turn you on to some old country music.
yeah, I'm totally down. Send me some suggestions in a DM or something.
All right.
How old is your daughter that you play the music?
I got one's 5, one's 3.
Oh wow, we're really young. Okay, so that's cool. So my stepdaughter is 11, and what we started doing is actually we have like one of those shared family Spotify plans. And so
we have iTunes.
Okay, yeah. So we made like a collaborative playlist. And, we have a little thing that her and I call ourselves Team Awesome. It's just kind of like a running joke for like 4 years now. And so we made it Team Awesome car rides. And so every now and then, either her or I will drag a new song for our car rides to school. And so we can kind of like, I'm like, oh, I think like I like this song, but I think Lily will like it. And then I'll put it in there and she'll do the same. So we're kind of trying to push each other a little bit and say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? That's cool that you guys do that.
Yeah, I think to me, I want them to have exposure to all that, and that's the open-mindedness. That all goes with the open-mindedness type thing, and I think it's a good thing that you can expose, them to different type of music. And like, I look at it as DJing. Like one of the things I say, I'm going to DJ for y'all. Like when they're both home, sometimes I'll get the remote and I'll get on YouTube and I'll just think of a song and I'll put it on and I'll just start going through and we'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. All right, 10 traits of unique DJs. Cordell mentions preparedness. He says, to me, it's all about preparation between booked shows as well as continuing to practice once or twice a week, even when my calendar is empty. I'm a very low prep DJ. What about you?
So because my playing out is not as often as I would love it to be, being in area. So I usually know well in advance when I'm going to play, and I usually start kind of looking at like what I've bought within the past year and kind of like whittling that down everything. And then I go into the gig with like 50 or 60 tracks. I'm going to play 2 hours. I have a big collection, but I know everything that's in there. And it always seems to turn out really well because I'm able to transition. I'm able to pivot, so to speak, but it's still within what I want to do, not something that I think I need to change up to. And I've also discovered that if I prepare for the acid podcast more over a 2-week period, as I know I'm coming in, that they turn out better, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't know about anybody else's opinion, but it just seems like I'm happier with the mix overall the more I prepare for it.
No, that totally makes sense. So I guess I should clarify when I say that I'm a low prep DJ. I'm low prep in that I don't do a whole lot of making sure my beat grids are correct and fooling with my tags and setting all my cue points. I'll occasionally do a little bit of that if I have a reason to, but generally I just kind of like get the tracks in there. But like I do kind of obsess over the tracks themselves, and I do a similar thing to you where I'm like, okay, I have an hour to play, so here's like 4 hours of music to fill that hour, right, or whatever. So I get way too much because I want to pivot, but I also have some stuff I know I want to play and express in a certain, take things in a certain direction, and so that kind of gives you options within that sort of realm of possibility. And then kind of to your second point where you're talking about the This Is Acid show, I think that makes a lot of sense for a recorded mix to put all of the prep time in. I do that. Like if I'm putting a recorded mix or something like that together, I spend way more time thinking about it and obsessing over it and preparing for it than I do actually recording it and putting it together. But I think that makes sense for something that's recorded and is going to exist as a recorded piece.
Yeah. And the thing is, like I've heard y'all talk about before, and that's why I kind of asked you to do the mix before, is because, I love to prepare for it. So like even now with this acid mix, I'll still put 25 tracks or 30. Like I have a big list of like active acid, meaning these are ones I want to choose from, and then I add to it as I move through, and then I try to move out stuff that I've already played because I don't want to replay tracks. Unless it's just that good, then I'll like wait a few shows and I might play it again. So I kind of rotate out that and like
a grab bag.
I don't do a lot of tagging and everything like that. What I use is the stars in Tractor to say, okay, these are the ones I want to play this mix, and I'm not going out of this. But it never fails. I always do go out of that list because I hear something playing it, and I'm like, well, I think that this would go good.
Yeah.
So I go outside the list and I grab that and pull it in, but that's just kind of all. But it's still that preparation kind of allows you to be able to do that though, because you kind of already know where you want to be at, but you allow yourself to be able to stray a little bit.
There's been times where I've taken that. I take a similar approach, and there's been times where I've taken that kind of secondary grab bag playlist, and I make that almost like, I hate using the word, but like filler tracks.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because sometimes it's like you think of your grab bag of like, these are the big tunes that I want to play, right? But then like I think of this particular grab bag as like, what if I'm pushing it too hard and I need to let it ride for a little bit? Or what if I'm getting to the end of my hour, you know what I mean? And like I thought that I was going to be at this point in the set, but I'm actually way over here. You know, I moved through these transitions way faster than I thought, or something like that. I need to take a song or two. So I kind of think of them that way. Like these tracks will work with what I'm doing basically anywhere. You know what I mean? Like the energy doesn't do anything super crazy or change, but they stylistically fit. So like I said, I hate to use the word filler, but that's sort of what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been many times I play them, I'm like, there's tracks, you know, I think sometimes when you build a set, you kind of like, you look at 2 or 3 tracks and you're like, these I am playing. And it's like, how do I get to those? And to you, and I don't think it's bad. Like there is kind of filler in a sense, or it's bridges to those points, so to speak. You can use that word instead of filler. You say a bridge.
Bridge. I like that. I think I'll start using that from now on, actually. Bridges. I might even name my playlist for that, Bridges. I like that. Cordell also says something I've mentioned on the show before, as I wanted to point out. He says, when I practice, I mentally put myself in a place where I'm actually playing in front of the live audience. It's that pressure that refines a diamond performance. I do the same thing. I totally agree. Like if I have especially if I have like a bigger, more important gig coming up, and I'm doing like a practice or a prep session, I'll do that too. I'll like mentally put myself in that place where I'm envisioning what the crowd might be like. And I try not to get too specific because you know you could like fool yourself into thinking the wrong thing. But you know, if I'm like, hey, I've noticed that I've been playing for half an hour, and I'm kind of plodding along. I'm not really getting anywhere, and I'm kind of envisioning the crowd getting bored right now. You know, and like some of that's probably just paranoia, but I think it kind of helps to contextualize, right? To think of like what's it actually going to be like in the room when I get there.
Yeah. And that's one thing also. Like every time I record, like I don't necessarily envision myself playing in front of people or doing anything like that, because like I feel like if I'm enjoying it, that somebody else will too. But then there's like I'll do some of them. I'm like, have I moved anywhere? And it's like I need to do something and change. I feel like to myself, but then sometimes you go back. I think as DJs, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we hear it with such a different ear than everybody else. And you go back and you're like, what the hell was I so worried about?
Yeah, absolutely. I do that like even when I make like a blatant mistake in the mix, and I'm like, I cringe, and then I go back and listen to the recording. I'm like, oh, is that it? Like it's like in the moment I was like, oh my God, everyone hates me. They're never gonna stop talking about this one flub that I made, and it's never that big of a deal, you know.
I've gotten to the point where I hear it, I'm like, screw it.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
At least they know I'm doing something, like Jared said on the episode the other day.
Yeah.
One of the other traits of unique DJs, diverseness. I wrote it as diverseness rather than diversity. Because that kind of gives different visions. But so, for example, Matthew says, I have such a range of things I like. It's real fun and a definite challenge to mix literally everything into a pot like gumbo. The mix doesn't always come out very smooth, but it's a fun way to play for friends and to get a lot of variety under your belt. Filiberto says, my ability to mix through different genres of music. And Terry says, I would say proudly that I contrast music that people wouldn't normally think a DJ would mix together. So this like random goulash of tracks approach, this reaching into every little different corner is where, you know, even if you're not performing live, like let's take a practice session, like that idea of taking a whole bunch of random songs and throwing them into a pot like gumbo, like Matthew says, and then figuring out how to make those work can actually like really help you, like skill-wise, can really increase your abilities as a DJ and kind of give you more to work with skill-wise. This is something I was doing the other day. If you look behind me, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a reloop beat pad back there that I was doing a video review of. And it's, you know, it uses Algorithms DJ, and so I've been playing with the Spotify integration. And that's been kind of fun just for the sole fact that it's like, well, a random ass hip hop track. You just type it in and start going, oh, what about this thing? And you just randomly search things that aren't in your collection or in a playlist, and you start throwing them in there. Oh, this is approximately the right BPM. I'm going to figure it out and make it work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that like keeping yourself on your toes kind of helps you always progress, whereas I feel like a lot of DJs get stuck in their comfort zone.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Mr. Scruff?
Sounds familiar, but not sure.
Uh, he does that, and also I think DJ Harvey also. I've never really heard a whole lot about DJ Harvey, but Mr. Scruff, he'll cover, like, from dub reggae to hip hop to funk to house music and everything like that. But he plays 5 to 6 hour sets, like, and he'll do big shows and stuff like that, and that's like, in all honesty, like, there's times, like, I'll, like, when I did the Friday Night Fever mix series I did, I would always try to come up with, I wanted to try to come up with a theme for the week, and, like, I would try to find stuff where I could find a down tempo or go to different stuff and try to fit it. But you do have your wheelhouse, and then you need to sometimes step out of your wheelhouse and try to maybe find, hey, I like these songs. I want to play these songs. How can I play these songs?
I feel like sometimes, like, we get so obsessed with the artist part of it, like I'm trying to define my sound, find my voice, and all that kind of stuff, and we get so stuck in that what we end up doing is just pigeonholing ourselves into this tiny box of sound, rather than realizing, like, hey, we're DJs. Like, what are we doing? We're trying to share music with people, right? So why be so limiting? And that's something I struggle with personally, definitely. Like, I get stuck in this little genre box, and then I have to remind myself that I'm allowed to go outside of that.
Yeah, and I don't have no experience with hearing this, but, like, another one of my favorite DJs is Josh Wink. I love Josh Wink.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people I've heard say, "Have you ever heard him play drum and bass?" And
I've heard that too.
And they said, like, it's, he's unbelievable drum and bass DJ.
I've heard that
and I've
too.
never heard.
All right, so our 10 traits or 10 traits of unique DJs. We have adaptability, adventurousness, eclecticism, being entertaining, being patient. Trait of, what else we have? Musicianship, open-mindedness, preparedness, diverseness, and then we're going to wrap up with authenticity. Amber says that she can't put it into words, but it's all about staying authentic and playing what you feel. And that's something that I really appreciate about your shows in particular, Greg. It's that you've found a way to be able to stay authentic to what you want to do, and find a place to put that creative energy. And when you found two different outlets for this, right? Like, one is curating songs, and one is curating the DJs that curate the songs and putting that into a show. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that really shows that sense of authenticity that Amber's talking about.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. It's a good show, and definitely our listening audience should check it out. Can you remind us again where everybody can check out the shows, and if you want to, people to reach out to you on social media or anything, plug all the things.
Yeah. So the website, like I said, you can get to everything from there. thesoundunderground.net. And of course on Facebook as The Sound Underground also. Instagram, The Sound Underground, and also SoundCloud is The Sound Underground. There's some variation in the spelling, but if you actually do a search, you would be able to find it, because there's not really any huge variations out of that. There's like maybe an O missing somewhere or U missing somewhere, just because I wasn't the first. But I usually always try to point people to the website, because you can get to Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google, all that from the website. It still needs some work. It's not the best thing, but you can hear pretty much all the mixes up to a certain point on each one. And you can always, there is a mailing list, although it hasn't grown very, very big. And I don't attend to it as well as I should.
Well, maybe we can get you a few more subscribers and listeners on that coming from this show, because it really is a good show. I really like what you're doing with it. And, check out that David Michael mix. I hear it's fire.
Well, look, you know what? I keep up with different metrics. So I keep up with the web, the website traffic. I keep up with the iTunes downloads. I keep up with SoundCloud plays. I can't really keep up with the Google plays. I'm not really sure how to do that yet. But yours, I looked at them today. Yours is still the most downloaded on iTunes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. So so you shouldn't be like so hard on yourself when it comes to it. It was a really enjoyable mix and stuff like that. And it's like I said, it still had the most downloads for the Sound Underground podcast in iTunes. So
well, I was just talking smack, but I guess it really is fire. I'll take credit for that. And I really appreciate everything that you've brought to Passionate DJ, including this episode. And I wish you all the best with the Sound Underground and This Is Acid. I'm going to keep on listening. And if you ever want me to come back on and do a guest slot, I would love to.
Well, I'll probably have to take you up on that offer for sure.
Greg, this has been awesome, and I appreciate your time and for everything that you do for the Passionate DJ podcast. And to everybody at home, this has been the Passionate DJ podcast. We'll see you next time. Take care.